A lot of my speeches have been fireside chats or just discussions. And organizers in Prague, they're very thoughtful, and I think they're a bit more organized. And they said, you know, you really should come up with slides. And I thought, slides? So this is my first presentation this year with slides. I'm hoping by the time I finish, you'll conclude there is no second best set of slides.
Michael Saylor gave an excellent presentation about Bitcoin, energy, and the future of humanity in Prague in 2023. He made an excellent presentation, excellent slideshow that is timeless, and it's extremely important if you want to understand why Bitcoin's price in terms of political currencies and everything else is going to go up, as he says, forever, and going to go up, as he says, by many orders of magnitude. In this video, I'm going to be reacting to that presentation, and not only for the purpose of education, hopefully adding additional context to what is an all too short speech, but to encourage you to consider going. See, this was the first conference in Prague in 2023. The second one is in 2024. This year, in June, you can sign up for the conference. I'll be there. I'll give a presentation. Michael will be there. He'll give at least one presentation. You can be there. You can hang out with lots and lots of Bitcoiners, a variety of Bitcoiners from around the world. You can use the link in the description for 10% off. Luke 10 gets you 10% off your ticket. You get another 5% off for a total of 15% off if you pay in Bitcoin. So without a further ado, let's get into the presentation here, because there is no second best set of slides.
Without further ado, I'd like to talk about the future of Bitcoin. So let's start with an observation. There is an endless economic war raging worldwide. It has been raging since the beginning of time. It is going on right now. That war is over the redistribution of economic energy, and we call that wealth. But it is all of the money and the power in the world right now. And so we have a nice map of the wealth of the world here. And the question is, how is that wealth being redistributed every single month and every single year? There are three primary drivers. The first driver is government policy. The most powerful actors in the economic war are governments everywhere in the world. They are moving money around. When I use money here, I mean economic energy or wealth. They're redistributing it. The second big driver in this economic war is technology. It's the advent of the Apples and the Googles, and it's electricity, and it's fire, and it's cars, and it's Teslas, and it's AIs. The third driver in this economic war is work. It's all the hard work, it's the competition, it's the energy. When you get up in the morning, you go and you work as hard as you can. Now, sad to say that the government is an order of magnitude more powerful in that economic driver than the technology. And the technology is an order of magnitude more powerful than your work. And I think you understand this. If you work as hard as you can, but without a machine, or you work as hard as you can without the access to a computer, there's only so far you're going to get. Now, I was thinking about Bitcoin and how Bitcoin plays into all this. And you can see in my chart, Bitcoin's about $400 billion of this $900 trillion worth of global wealth. You see gold is 12 trillion, and equities are 115 trillion. It used to be gold was equal to equity. If you go back 50 years, it used to be gold was about equal to equity. So what happened? Well, there's a lot of technology in equity. You know, we talk about gold being a shiny, dead rock, but think about gold mining and think about what technology has done to gold mining in 50 years. Semiconductors don't make it easier to mine gold. Mobile phones don't make it easier to mine gold. Right? What's happened in equity? Well, you've got Tesla, you've got Apple, you've got Google, you've got Amazon, you've got the internet, you've got the telephone. So technology has shifted the balance of power from gold to equity. Government policy shifting the balance of power. Look at bonds. Bonds are driven very heavily by government policy. Real estate driven very heavily by government policy because government policy controls capital and cost of debt, and that drives real estate. And of course, there's money over here. So, most important point is the government is changing this field. Technology is changing this field, and you can work as hard as you want, but you're going to have to take into account government policy and technology if you want to actually survive in this world.
I fully agree with that. That basically Bitcoin is a fighter in this kind of economic war. Michael Saylor, myself, and pretty much every other Bitcoiner, all the way back, to Satoshi Howe, basically all of us have been criticized at some point for being too dramatic or too hyperbolic in our speech, right? Oh, economic war, really? Fear mongering via the word war. That connotates violence, conflict. That's just fear mongering. It's just magic internet money, right? And I think the reason, Michael Saylor doesn't choose the word war randomly. It's a very dramatic word, right? I use the word war, or I describe things as war. And I think the important thing to realize for people that may interpret that as unnecessarily provocative or emotional is that the word war is not inaccurate. In fact, I think it's exactly true. Like the whole reason animals have conflict, the whole, if you look out in the natural world, like I'm looking right now, if you look outside, you see trees, you see fungi, you see, animals, and then obviously animals around the planet. All these organisms are competing for energy. Okay, life is an economic war, predator and prey, right? Those two creatures are in a battle, right? They're in a battle for energy right now. The important thing is that energy is not zero sum. The energy accumulation and life itself is not a zero sum game. However, as we build up and up and up, we do need more energy in order to survive, right? And so I think describing history through that lens of energy warfare and economic warfare, I think is really important. And I think that's a huge part that's missing in our educational system, right? Here, I'm in the United States. Our American educational system is funded by the US government. So it should not be a surprise that when you look backwards in time at history, through a political institution teaching that history, you are inherently going to have an overly political bias, and you're going to get the political story of history. You're not going to get the energy or the economic story of history. So when most of us learn about history and all the wars and the big names and the faces and the dates and all that stuff, it doesn't tend to stick because why does it matter? Why should we care, right? And I don't blame the kids that say that, or the adults too, that say that, because if you just learn dates and names and political empires and regimes, it doesn't make any sense. But when you context the wars and the empires, the oppressors and the victims, right? When you context all that in the framing of energy, you begin to understand that for thousands of years in human history, we have had this battle for energy. Here, I have a gold coin. This gold coin here, I use as an example, and I only own this gold coin as a use of example, and until I no longer need the example. But the point is that this gold coin is worth a lot more than what people might expect. The United States government, the political institution of the United States government, will give you $50 for this coin here. That's why it says $50 here. But the actual market value of this coin is not $50 in gold price in terms of US dollars. The actual market price is not $50. It's more like $2,000, 2,000, 2,100, 2,200. Okay. It is many orders of magnitude more valuable than what the government's willing to pay. And likewise, the history we're given has orders of magnitude of disparity in it, right? Because when you're looking at history through the context of politics, it doesn't make sense. Why did this person do that? That seems random. But when you contextualize it in that the empire needs energy and the empire needs to grow and expand to have energy to survive. And so when you look at current politics in America or the globe, people ask all the time, why are things so crazy? Why is the president or this politician or that congressperson or that lobbyist or, why are all these political things happening? And they feel so strange than they did 30 years ago. Again, if you are looking at history or you're looking at modern events through the upper layer of politics and not the base layer of energy, you're going to be really confused. What's going on? The present doesn't feel like the past. But when you understand that the post-World War II boom, we had a massive amount of energy being created. And then after America, became the de facto reserve currency, right? Which Michael will get to in just a moment. But America became the reserve currency, the dominant form of monetary energy in the world. Then we departed from this. We departed from gold in 1971. And then from there, now we've been slowly transitioning to this new world where we don't have a stable monetary empire, monetary regime to effectively communicate energy with each other. Now we're transitioning to a world where the money is declining, unfortunately, at a faster and faster rate. If you go out and you look at a bird of paradise, right? Someone looking at the bird of paradise from a behavioral standpoint might wonder, why are these birds going to all this elaborate lengths just to dance and move around and have fancy feathers and colors that provide no strategic advantage, right? If you're looking from a behavioral lens, from a surface layer lens, you won't understand. But if you go to a layer deeper and you understand, oh, these birds and animals want to have these colors, have these feathers, do these dances, clean their areas, and do all these elaborate things that you wouldn't expect a bird to do, because it's all about energy. If I'm a bird that has the brighter feathers, the larger area, if I can channel more energy, communicate more energy, I can ward off competing birds without having to actually fight them. I can just communicate, hey, look, I've got the energy. I made all these colorful feathers. I can do all these dances just right. You better not attack me, right? It's a more effective way, a more energy efficient way of communicating. Don't take my stuff. Don't take my mate. Don't take my area. Don't take my food, right? Don't harm my babies. And likewise for mating, it's the same idea, right? Why is the female going to go to the very energy extensive length of mating with a bird and having offspring, if that's not necessarily the male that you want to mate with, right? Have the male do a dance, show his colors, strut his stuff, show you in a more energy efficient way that I'm a sufficient organism for reproducing with, right? And so taking that context, into the economic war with history here, if we're looking at the bird through a behavioral lens or human society through the political lens, we're going to be distorted to thinking they're only political solutions. We're going to be distorted to thinking that they're only political problems we're trying to solve. And that is the fundamental difference between this little yellow coin and this little orange coin, okay? This piece of plastic is worth nothing. It's cheap, okay? This is worth thousands of times more than this. Like literally, like this little Bitcoin plastic is worth nothing, just a few cents. This is worth thousands of dollars. Why? Because it took more energy to produce. It's not a political creation of energy. It's the actual material innovation of energy here. And so that's a really important context when understanding Bitcoin. I'm so glad Michael framed up the conversation this way, to start with the context that if you're going to understand why Bitcoin, a non-political thing, is a solution to these political problems we have, is to understand that the original problems are not political problems at all.
The world reserve currency is the dollar. It's collapsing against assets like the S&P index, like real estate, like gold, like art. And this is a sobering thought. If we had sound money, the dollar wouldn't collapse. But you've probably seen this chart. This is the dollar collapsing against consumer goods. Consumer goods, the dollar is 95% weaker. It means consumer goods are 20 times more expensive today than 100 years ago. Now, consumer goods are manufactured items, candy bars, bottles of water, Netflix videos. They're things that are coming off an assembly line and they're getting stamped out with a low variable cost. This is the cheapest, least scarce stuff in this civilization, and yet it's 20 times more expensive. Now, a lot of times, government officials show you this chart and they say, well, this is the impact of inflation. This, in fact, was generated by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But the sad fact of the matter is, this is as good as it's ever going to get for you. This is a different picture. What if it wasn't easy to stamp out manufactured biscuits or Netflix videos? What if you had to do work to dig the gold out of the ground? Gold is a bit harder. And so the dollar has collapsed 99% against gold in that same 100 years, not 95%. By the way, gold is not scarce. We keep creating more gold. We get better at it, but at the end of the day, it's a bit more scarce than, Netflix videos, and it's a bit more scarce than drywall. Let's talk about something that's even more scarce. The 500 most valuable companies in the S&P. The US dollar has lost 99.8% of its value against the S&P index over that same 100 years. That is actually a closer measure to the inflation rate. This is the world's strongest currency. This is the currency backed by the country that won every war in the last 100 years. This is as good as it's going to get for you. This is as good as it gets. It will get worse. Now, how do you measure inflation? If I measure inflation against something I can manufacture for free, inflation doesn't look that high. If I measure inflation against a yardstick that is fixed, that's thermodynamically sound, then you see the true measure of inflation. S&P is one example of that. This is Miami Beach. Miami Beach runs 96 blocks. There's that much beach. 100 years ago, there was that much beach. No amount of semiconductor technology or factories make more beach. The dollar has fallen 99.8% against the beach in 100 years. That's how you start to see what's really going on with the world's strongest currency.
Hey there, if you're considering going to a Bitcoin conference, I highly encourage you to consider Prague in June of 2024. There are lots of great Bitcoin conferences out there, but this one in Prague is one of the largest ones of them all. And there are a lot of amazing things with this conference uniquely that I think you should potentially consider. I did not go last year in full transparency, but it was only their first year, and they had an incredible lineup. Michael Saylor was there, Adam Back was there, Robert Breedlove, Stefan Rivera. Many people were there that I felt a lot of FOMO, frankly. I wished I was there. And so I'm very grateful to say that I reached out to the Prague team and I said, hey, I wanted to go to your conference last year. I didn't. I don't want to make that mistake this year. And so I am going. Very grateful to say that I am going to the Prague conference in June of 2024. So if you want to meet me, if you want to meet all the other Bitcoin speakers there, and again, they have a really great lineup coming, a lot of things they haven't even announced yet. But it's a really good opportunity. Yes, if you're in America, where you might be watching this, it's a longer flight over there, a bit more expensive travel to get there. But once you're there, you're in Europe, and things are much cheaper than they are in the US, at least in Prague. So that's something really to keep in mind, that it's probably a lot more realistic than you think. And I think it's going to be a really low noise and really high signal conference. So if you want a good place to go, consider going there. I am offering, a discount code for there, right? I am speaking there, so I do have a discount code. You can get 10% off. Actually, you can get 15% off if you pay in Bitcoin. But even if you pay in fiat, you can get 10% off. So click the link in the description. You can get 10% off your ticket. If you're going anyway, you might as well use the code. And hopefully I'll see you there. Would love to see you there and meet you before or after, the conference or whatever. So comment down below if you're going or not. Would love to meet you. So put the link in the description. Click on that to buy your ticket. And comment down below if you're going, and would love to meet up. So thanks.